Spice Island in the Pot is brought to you by Stumpy's Emporium and a Penny Savers supermarket.
Hello and welcome to Spice Island in the Pot. I am Arlene, food designer and maker of all things yummy and good. You are about to join me in a local gourmet adventure, cooking up simple local dishes and adding some flair on those same homegrown ingredients. We are gonna hold hands and run through a field of flavors and jump into plating like you've never done before. So without further ado, let's go shopping for our dishes today. We are making stew fish. Have some red snapper, boiled provision, and cuckoo. Cuckoo is a tricky dish, so make sure pay close attention. Then we're gonna flare that up a little bit by making provision fish cakes with a roasted garlic honey mustard dip. So good. So let me get my ingredients together and we'll be right back to begin. Great, so we are ready with all of our ingredients for our stew fish with boiled provision and cuckoo. I have here my red snapper, cornmeal, tomatoes and onions, okras and carrots, flavor peppers, garlic, and of course, the captain of the ship, the coconut milk, and our boiled provision. So in meal planning, you want to cook the hardest thing first and the easiest thing last so everything finishes in a timely fashion. So I've already boiled my provision and I have it here. I have dasheen, green fig or green bananas. Now figs are actually a fruit from a ficus tree and it's usually used in this snack. It's called fig Newtons. It's like a little preservative in the middle of a little pastry bread. So that is actually a fig, but we say green fig. It is actually green bananas. I have some ripe plantains and some sweet potato. So I'm going to let this cool so that I can manage it to peel and cut them up. So I did this already, so I'm going to set this aside here to cool. And I'm going to start to do my cuckoo. So we have here 3 cups of coconut milk. So this is a half cup of the powder and then you fill up to 3 cups. So we start with that. There we go. I have some okras. This is about 8 to 10 small to medium size okras. Pimento, of course. And I cut these in a nice size so that you get to see all the colors throughout the cuckoo as you go along. Of course, I have my carrot, which I'm going to grate on the big side. Ooh. This adds another bit of color. And of course, if you get a nice quality cornmeal, that is going to be nice bright yellow. So we have yellows and orange, greens and reds. So here we go. Perfect. So you're gonna boil this up for about 5 minutes. We're gonna add a little salt to this. Just about 2 pinches of salt. Perfect. We're gonna boil this up for 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes of boiling, we're gonna do our cornmeal mix. Now this is really tricky, so you have to be really ready with this. So let me get this onto the stove, get it boiling, and get ready for the cornmeal. Okay, so we're gonna get this to boiling. Nice high fire. We get this to boil. So you need to set this up in a dish, in a greased dish. Typically people use butter, but I just use some cooking spray. So I'm going to just make sure that it's well coated so it doesn't stick. Because as soon as you get this completed, you have to pour it into the dish that you want to set it in, and then it kind of comes all together and you can cut. So I'm going to set this aside. Yeah. I'm going to do the cornmeal. So this is 1 cup of cornmeal. Here we go. This is a nice yellow, bright cornmeal. And of course, cornmeal comes from actual corn kernels that they ground up and make it into cornmeal. I'm going to add water. Now, every cornmeal brand is a little different. So this is really, you have to look out for consistency. And cornmeal takes a lot of, it kind of soaks up the water. So you want to make sure that when you do this, there are no lumps, because you don't want lumpy cuckoo. And the consistency that you're looking for is very runny. Runny like this, runny. Right? I'm just gonna add a little more water because it's gonna take water. So you have to be prepared to mix a lot. So this is boiling up nicely right there. There we go. All right. So, ooh. Nice. So as I give this a little stir, you can see everything is coming down nice and soft. You see all the beautiful colors that we have. So this has actually been boiling here for a little while now. So it's nice and thick from the okra and all of that. And then here comes the cornmeal. So at this point, you have to be really mixing. Make sure you get that loose consistency. And if you need to add water to bring it in good. All right. So this is where the stirring begins. So you stir, making sure there are no lumps here. And you keep stirring and stirring. Generally, I let my stepfather do this part for me because when I make it, it's like a big pot. And so I can't manage to stir. So we're stirring. And as I stir, you can see how it's just kind of forming up and getting thicker. And it takes a little while. So we're going to be here for a while. Stir. And it's getting nice. All the colors are coming out really nicely, if you can imagine the taste. It's a very simple dish, but it takes some practice as well. So if on your first attempt you don't actually get it, you know, try again. Don't be too discouraged. This took me a while to get. So we're stirring. My fire is nice and high. And we're stirring. Ooh. Wicked lime. Okay, what's I'm young and restless while this is going on. But you have to stir and watch. So one way to tell when this is almost all ready to be poured into your dish, it kind of pulls away from the sides of the pot. So it's important to use, you know, I believe in non-stick pots. So this is where it's getting a little thicker. See, I have to put a little more into the stirring. There we go. So see how that goes. I was fortunate. This is a really good pack of cornmeal that I got, so there wasn't any lumps. So, oh no, I need 2 hands. Tiny, weak hands. There we go. So see, that's thick. See that? Great. So just a little bit more. Stir. See? It starts to pull away as I stir. It starts to pull away from the sides of the pot, so it's almost ready. So what I'm going to do is just bring my dish closer for the pouring because it's almost ready. Now when we get through with this and this is being set, we're going to do our stew fish. And I have some really cool tips about how to store your fish and how to make it convenient so you're not cooking everything from scratch every day. Because, you know, like me, there are some working women out there don't have time to go to the fish market every day to get the fish. Right. So, almost. Okay, so it's starting to pull away. It's really thick. See here? Okay. So, off with my fire, and we're going to pour this in like so. Ooh. You might need to get some help pouring it in. I do. Had I known, I would have invited somebody to help me. And you just smoothen this out. There we go. When this starts to cool, it's gonna come together like the pie quality that we know. There we go. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to set this up next to my provisions to cool, and we're going to head over and get our fish started. Okay, so let's put this here to cool. Perfect. And get ready on our fish. So I have my red snapper here. So I got these a couple days ago, and because I don't go to the fish market every day for fresh fish like my mother used to or my grandmother used to, what I've done, I've gotten snapper fillet, and they do such a great job down there. They get it really nice and organized, fillet and everything. So I do like a bulk of seasoning, which is generally chive or spring onions, pimentos, garlic, and I put just a little bit because you don't want to take away from the flavor of the fish, and I individually wrap them in cling wrap and then I freeze them. So on any day, if I need 2 or 1 or even 3 like I'm doing today, it will all be ready. So I take them out overnight and they defrost nicely so they're nice and chilled here, and then we cook them up. So I'm doing like a steamed fish stew dung and some coconut milk. Like that. Typically people fry the fish and then make the sauce separate. I just prefer it this way. You can fry we can definitely fry another time. So I'm gonna start with some shadow benny. Just nice small cuts like this. This is just about 2 leaves. Pimento peppers. And of course, I like to cut these in a size that you can still see it when it's being served. You know, all that nice color. We have so much pretty ingredients here to use, so I don't like to hide them. So we're gonna do 3 of these. So roughly 1 pimento per portion of fish, if you wanted like a measurement. Right, onions, regular onions. I'm just using 1 small onion for this amount. And I like to buy my onions kind of small, because then if you cut a big one, then you just have the rest of it hanging out. And it's not always, you know, the best thing. So shopping smart is really good as well. Depending on what your family size is like, then, you know, you can buy big, small, you know, things like that. And I'm using 3 small tomatoes here. Nice diced. Seeds, everything in there. There we go. So, all right. And everything is going into 1 bowl because everything is going to start together in the pot. All right. There we go. All right. So I have my vegetables ready. So I'm going to unwrap my fish here. So you can see just a little bit of that seasoning. Not too liquidy, just a little salt, a little pepper. And see, this is 1 fish. Used to be 1 fish. Now it's fillet into pieces. So get that over there. This sauce that I'm making can be made spicy. I like to put a little kick in it, but we're not gonna do that today. I mostly do that when we do like hors d'oeuvres, because I know some of the people here, they don't want any spicy in their food, and you know, the foreigners that can't handle our spice. So I'm giving them a blind for today. All right. So fish is out. So let me just get rid of this. Oh. Wash up. Okay, so let's head over to the stove and get our sauce started. Okay, so time for our sauce. So again, with my non-stick pan, I'm gonna get this lighting, medium to high fire. Get this nice and hot. Vegetable oil. For this amount of sauce, I would say you do like a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. The good thing about this sauce is that you can make a whole lot of it in advance, and then you can season your fish individually, and then you just kind of scoop out some sauce and put your fish in, and then you have fresh food every day instead of stewing all of it and then you have to reheat. That's like a really nice option to have it fresh. So I'm using some garlic. That's about 6 cloves of minced garlic. And I always have minced garlic in my fridge because it's just more convenient. I don't know anybody that likes to peel garlic. I certainly do not. There we go. Just grab a spoon here. I'm gonna let this soften a little bit, and then I'm gonna add just some salt and pepper. We have a little ketchup, a little coconut milk, and then when the sauce comes together, we're gonna add the fish to that. Right, so everything is nice and soft. I'm gonna do a little salt here, a little pepper. Right, I'm gonna do a little ketchup. So I'll give this a little stir, get everything into a nice paste-like consistency. So we need it a little more pasty. Paying attention to the type of consistency that you want when you're cooking is important, because you're not always going to have the privilege of measurement. Plus, you know, when you cook with love, you throw a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you kind of make it your own. That's even better. Right, so to this, coconut milk. There we go. Just give it a nice mix. If it gets thick before you add your fish in, you just add a little water to make it into a nice thinner sauce. So this is a little thick, so I'm gonna add a little water to this before we put the fish in. There we go. Right, so this has to bubble up, simmer down, and come down into a nice sauce, and then we add the fish. Fish cooks really quickly. So sauce thickened up really nicely, and I put my fish in. I put my fish in skin side down because redfish is a really soft, tender fish, and you don't want it to mash up in the sauce. So skin side down holds everything together. So as you can see here, they're swimming in there. We have a nice consistency. Swimmy, swimmy, swimmy once you do this, and there's room for everybody to move. And you don't want to put your fish one on top of the other. If you have a lot of fish, then you do them, you know, a batch at a time. We had enough to fit this pot exactly. And that way you can just kind of scoop it and maintain the structure of the fish. Also, if you find like your sauce is a little thick, you could just add a little water at a time just to get this kind of nice consistency. You don't want it too thin, you don't want it too thick. You want to have enough gravy to pour over all that good ground provision. So this is cooking up. So how I test my fish, in the middle of a piece, I push down. If it doesn't go down easily, it's not ready. So these are not ready as yet. So I'm gonna put a cover on this for it to cook for about 3 more minutes. It's already been in there for about 2 minutes, so we're looking at 5 minutes. Gonna get this down. I'm gonna come back and check on this in 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so our fish is done. We're gonna peel the provisions, cut the cuckoo, plate up, taste everything. So let's begin. So I'm here with the dasheen. So I'm gonna cut the back off because I boiled with the skin on. I'm gonna cut this down to a smaller piece, make it a little more manageable. This is really good. There we go. Peel that off. And this is like traditional. You know, you peel and boil and peel all the provision. So nice. I remember having this meal sometimes on Saturdays. Like when my grandparents came to visit, we'd have some of this. When friends come to visit from the States, they like this kind of food, so I have to cook this when they visit. We really have a lot of good times. Lots of good times with this. So I'm just taking off all the little ugly parts. Slicing it up. So this is the dasheen. And there are 2 types of dasheen. There's the blue one and the white one. The blue one we salute here in Tobago every year at the Blue Food Festival, and people make all different types of things with the blue dasheen. Cheesecake, ice cream, lollies, you know, little fritters, things like that. So this is our sweet potato, nice bright color. I think sweet potato is such a gem of a provision. So much things that you can do. Oop, wrong way. Do with this. So I'll cut the stem off in the back here. And when you get a good sweet potato, it's like you want a prize because it's kind of sweet, it's starchy. You know, I like sweet potato with a little hint of cinnamon sometimes. See, there's so much you could do with this. All right, I got this down, cut. And this doesn't have to be in any fancy shape or size for this particular meal because generally this is how it's done. All right, another sweet with the plantains. I like to cut mine on the side, on the bias, and if you cut the top of the stem and you take your knife and go straight down like this, cut the other side, it peels up really easily. There we go. Perfect. Nicely cooked. When you're getting plantains for boiling, try not to get the really ripe ones. Try to get something that's nice and firm. So we cut nice pieces like this. If you feel more comfortable using a board, please do so. No injuries. Plantains. So one more time on the side like this. Cut the stem off. Cut the skin straight down. And then cut the other side. Peel this. My grandmother gave this to me to do all the time, so I'm really good at it. She was a very nice lady and she encouraged us to cook. She's the only person I knew that cooked so much. She cooked for everybody. She cooked for the people passing in the lane. She cooked for the neighbors, her friends. And a lot of my friends were jealous of the type of food I used to go home to from school. Because I used to go home on a random Monday and we would have this. So that's my plantain. Now, we're doing the green figs. Quick tip, green figs generally give you like this little sticky thing on your hand. So if you have a little vegetable oil, like so, rub your hands here. That way the little sticky parts doesn't stay on your hand and you have to scrub it over the sink. So this is similar to the plantains, cut the top off, but because they're so small, you don't have to cut down the sides. So once you get the top, the skin will come off pretty easily. You want to scrape all this extra little back skin there. You can cut these in about 2. Perfect. So there we go. This is a messy project, I know, but we'll get through it for sure. By the hook or the crook, we will. Get this off. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Fun times. When you have kids that are old enough, this is a good time for them to come and participate in the kitchen. Get them encouraged into cooking. At least that's how I got started. I got started because I had to help out with the cooking on the weekends, and I became really interested in cooking from there. My family cooks a lot and we are very close because of it. I think that is the reason why, because we're always in the kitchen together. And I grew up in mixed family home. I had uncles, I had aunts, I had grandparents sometimes, you know. Okay, so that is our provision. So let me clear this away. And just wash my hands a little. Okay, so let's plate up. There we go. So I'm gonna get a little bit of everything here now. All this, a little that, sweet potatoes, green fig, good and iron, plus plantains. That looks good. Let's cut our cuckoo. So if you can see here, the cuckoo has kind of pulled away from the side as it cooled, and when you touch it, it's really firm. See? No, it's not rock hard, it's just firm, right? And it's a little like a bounce to the touch there. So I'm gonna get a little piece, a nice smooth edged knife. It's a really nice texture there. There we go, and you scoop this out. Just get it from here. See? All the lovely colors, the okra, the carrots, the everything. It's a nice, see when I touch it, it's like a sponge. That's a really nice texture. You don't want it too stiff. There's also no lumps. We made sure of that when we were doing all the stirring. So I put this there. And of course my fish. So with my fish, I want to take my fish out first. A nice flat spoon like this, see, pulls up. One piece. So I'm having one fish. There we go. And some of that good gravy there. Perfect. Now, let's see. Now, isn't this a beautiful plate? So good. All the nutrients of everything in here. Just gonna steal a little bit of this. Can't wait to taste that cuckoo. It looks so good. And a little bit of that fish. Really good. There's so much texture, complementing everything. There's a little graininess, but still very smooth in the cuckoo. There's the little chunks of seasoning for the fish. Everything is really good on this plate. We're gonna get ready for our gourmet twist, which is provision and fish cakes. That's right, provision, fish, little cakes. And we're gonna do this with a roasted honey mustard dip. It's gonna be really good. It's a nice evening snack. It's a party food as well, so you get a little bit of everything in there. This is a really good lunch meal, like a Saturday lunch, so make sure and try it. So we'll be back after this break. You're watching Spice Island in the Pot.